So with that, here's our webinar today. Maximize your giving season fundraising potential with Candid Profiles. This is what we are all about today. Giving season. Can't live with it, you can't live without it. It's the best of times and it's the worst of times. But we're going to get through it together. This webinar today is all about sharing just one pretty straightforward thing that you can do that will kind of position your nonprofit pretty well for receiving a good influx of donations during giving season. This is what we're going to discuss today. My name is Tracy Kaufman. I'm an educational programming manager here at Candid, based out of New York. Also joining me today is my colleague, Dave Holmes. Say hello.
Hi, everybody. I'm out of our Cleveland office, and I'll be taking over for Tracy a little bit later.
Right. We also have quite a few Candid staff lurking in the shadows today, and they will be helping out with the chat and the Q&A a bit. And they're all very, very knowledgeable on the subject of Candid Profiles, which is really kind of the reason for the season today. We'll be focusing on that. So a big welcome to my colleagues, Chris, Dorothy, Moni, Tori, Em, and Mel. They will be helping out in the background on today's webinar. So, as we are jumping into our subject matter at hand today, quick question for you. How are you feeling so far? Today's October 2nd. We got October, November, December ahead of us. How are you feeling about giving season? We have our reactions here on your Zoom toolbar. Give us a reaction. I'm seeing a lot of astonished open mouths in our reactions here. And I guess those are open to interpretation, what they mean. But we're all going to get through this together. It's 3 months. It'll be over in a flash. We'll be fine. We're going to get so many donations, so many new funders. It's going to be beautiful. So, as we're diving into our subject matter today, a little bit about Candid, just in case there's anyone on here who is new to us, if this is your first webinar with us. So, Candid's mission is centered around the fact that every year, millions of nonprofits spend trillions of dollars around the world. And our job here at Candid is to find out, where does that money come from? Where does that money go? And why does it matter? We get you the information you need to do good. For some background context, Candid is a nonprofit organization made up of 2 pre-existing nonprofit organizations, which are Foundation Center and GuideStar. Foundation Center for many years was the #1 source of information on foundations and their grants worldwide, whereas GuideStar for many years was the #1 source of information on the nonprofit sector within the US. And over 5 years ago, almost 6 years ago now, Foundation Center and GuideStar joined together, became one organization. We changed our name and we are now known as Candid. And now all of the information about foundations, grants, nonprofits, it all lives in the same place. Okay, shall we jump into the matter at hand? Let's talk about giving season. Let's talk about where Candid Profiles fit into giving season and what they can do for you. So do any of these problems here on the screen sound familiar to you in your professional life? Donors, they don't know who we are. Or I desperately need to raise money, but I do not know any high net worth donors. Or I am completely new to fundraising and I have no idea what I'm doing. Do any of these things sound relatable? If even one of these sounds relatable, let's see what we could do about that together. So our agenda today, we'll do just a very brief overview of giving season. Then we're going to talk about how can you leverage your nonprofit's profile on Candid to make the most of giving season. Talk about why a seal of transparency through Candid matters. How can you earn one? And just some basic tips for making your giving season a successful one. Sound good? Question for you. We have a poll. What do you think? What percentage of nonprofits' annual giving takes place in the month of December? Give you a moment to answer. Is it 6%? Is it 12.6%? Is it 26%? Or is it a whopping 62%? Just over half the room has responded. Let's maybe see if we can get a little higher. There we go. Okay, so looks like well over half of you chose 62%. The answer is actually, it's a little better than that. If you're incredibly worried about, I have to raise over half my giving for the year in one single month, it's not as bad as that, but it's still significant. The answer is actually 26% of total annual giving tends to happen in the month of December. However much you need to raise, you need to think that roughly a quarter of it is going to happen at the end of the year. And even more than that, 10% of all giving occurs in the last 3 days of the year. No pressure or anything. You've got a lot of giving to look forward to in the bitter end of the year, let's hope. So some key dates to keep in mind along the way. Giving Tuesday is always top of mind this time of year. It's coming up this time around on December 3rd. December 3rd, Giving Tuesday, is really kind of the proper kickoff to giving season. Last year, $3.1 billion was donated just on Giving Tuesday alone. So you want to be ready to receive tons of donations. In addition to that, there's another newer movement underway, which is DAF Day for donor advised funds, October 10th, which is coming up quite soon. What is it, about a week or so from now? DAF Day is a newer day that's kind of encouraging people to give more from their donor advised funds. And for any of you who've been in fundraising for a little bit, you know, donor advised funds are very much on the rise. Tons of money moving through them. But because there are quite a few people who sometimes will let a full year go by without giving any contributions out of their donor advised funds, this DAF Day in October is going to encourage people to give in tremendous numbers on October 10th. So you want to be prepared for that as well. So where does your Candid profile fit into all of this? So what is a Candid profile? So each year, Candid's nonprofit profiles have millions of visitors. Funders and donors alike, they visit our site to research and validate nonprofits. And the information that you have on your nonprofit's profile on Candid shares your work, it shares your impact, and it helps build trust in the eyes of the general public and specifically in the eyes of donors and potential funders. Some of you maybe might be wondering, wait, Candid profile, where is that? Where do I find that? The site where you find it is guidestar.org. Sometimes either Dave or I might use these terms interchangeably, GuideStar or Candid. Consider them almost synonyms, but your Candid profile is your nonprofit's profile that exists on guidestar.org. So what do these profiles accomplish here? So at the very least, if you've never touched your profile before, and if you are a 501c3 nonprofit, you likely have a Candid profile already, even if you've never even seen it before. And this is because in the name of transparency, all US-based nonprofit organizations, their tax returns, their Form 990s are public documents, and those all exist on the Candid site on guidestar.org. So at the very least, most likely, if someone searches for your nonprofit through us, they will at the very least find your tax returns. However, you can do a lot more with it than just have your tax returns there. These candid profiles, you have the option, if you so choose, to claim your nonprofit's profile on behalf of your organization and add additional information. These profiles, they provide the information that donors need to make informed giving decisions. And they give your nonprofit the opportunity to answer questions that donors have before they even have a chance to ask those questions. And this is especially important during giving season right now, when donors are going to need this kind of information about you quickly before they're going to make a giving decision. We have a lot of different partner organizations. It's at least, I think, 200 different partner organizations and companies and institutions that make use of our data, including tech companies, major donor-advised fund platforms, giving platforms, grants management software. So, for instance, in the grants management software, whenever you apply for a grant, the funder is going to receive your profile, they're going to read it and review it, and most of these funders, they're going to have certain software, whether it's Blackbaud, Flux, whatever it happens to be, that pulls data directly from Candid so that they're able to pull up your profile. And this allows them to do their due diligence on you and take a look at your Candid profile versus your grant proposal and figure out, are they telling the same cohesive story? If you've ever run a Facebook fundraiser or donated to a Facebook fundraiser, that information gets pulled directly from your Candid profile. Or how about donor advised funds specifically? So as of the end of 2022, there was over $229 billion in donor advised fund assets. So much money moves through these. And so, for instance, let's say there's a donor who has a DAF through Fidelity and they want to give some money. They will log into their account on the Fidelity site and they decide, I want to give to an environmental organization in Minnesota. When they do that, they're going to pull up who are all the environmental organizations in the state of Minnesota. And if that's you, if you are one of those organizations, you will be on that list. What are they going to see when they find you? It's an opportunity to boost your visibility and your credibility. So, another question for you, another poll for you. How familiar are you with the concept of a seal of transparency? If you've heard of it before, do you have a seal of transparency already? Give you just a moment or so to respond. Okay, we have over half the room has responded here. Looks like 55% of you already have a seal. Oh, I'd love to know which seal you all have. Quite a few of you have heard of these, but your nonprofit doesn't have one yet. And over 20% of you have no idea what a seal of transparency is. Okay. So let's get into it. Shall we take a look at what is a seal of transparency? So I mentioned that when you claim your profile and add information to it, it helps boost both your credibility and your visibility. This aligns with seals of transparency. The more information you add, the greater the seal of transparency you receive. A bronze seal of transparency, that is the basics that you could get quite quickly. It involves sharing your mission statement and making sure your contact information is up to date. At the very least, you want to make sure you do this. A little more information will give you a silver seal of transparency. This involves putting in information about the programs that you operate and potentially any branding information. If you want to go even further, there's the gold seal of transparency. This involves putting in financial information, details about your leadership, and demographics. finally, the highest level is the Platinum Seal of Transparency, which is all about impact. And impact is one of the things that donors and funders care about the absolute most. This allows you to include information on your metrics, your results that come out of your programs. So that is the top level of the Seal of Transparency, Platinum. The benefits to taking the time to claim your profile and get a Seal of Transparency. You provide good information that donors need in order to make their giving decisions and potentially fund you. This increases your visibility tremendously. Those of you who say donors don't know we exist, they are far more likely to know that you exist if you take the time to do this. It also saves time, putting a lot of the essential information about your organization in one place. So when donors and funders are looking you up, they're all getting the essential basics here. There are also some great benefits that go along with getting a Seal of Transparency. You get your own dedicated shareable full profile link that you can put on your website, you can put in your newsletter, you can put it everywhere, and it helps spread the word. You get access to Apple Pay for donations. You get a lot of great things. With this, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Dave so that he could tell you a bit more.
Thanks, Tracy. So I'm going to share my slides and take it over from where Tracy stopped. And I think probably the biggest question right now, if you've never done this before, is how do you earn these seals of transparency and what do you do? So I'm going to go over the process and I'm just going to show you a little bit on guidestar.org what you need to do. And rest assured, if you're not getting your questions answered in the Q&A, you will get a chance here at the very end. We'll both be able to answer your questions related to this. So getting your seal on guidestar.org is very simple. First of all, you go to guidestar.org and access your profile. And if you are a 501c3 in the United States, you will have a profile on guidestar.org. There is a way that you can go in and register on guidestar.org. That's required to do anything on there. It doesn't take very long to do that at all. And then the next step is to update your information, what you have communicated about your organization. What we have on there is simply what we've gotten from the IRS. What you need to do is then go in and update it. And then you simply publish it. It's something that you can do. The seal levels are easy to update. It's really not a problem at all. So you go in, this is what guidestar.org looks like. You create an account and sign in. To claim your nonprofit's Candid profile, we want to make sure it's you. So you will click on updating your nonprofit profile, and we will make sure we match you with your organization, and we validate that you are a person that should be representing that organization. You don't want anybody else updating your information. Once you go into this and you update your information using the Update Nonprofit Profile button, you will get an option to go into your nonprofit. In this case, it's Candid, as you see on the screen, and you can click on Edit, and you can begin to update your information and earn the different seals of transparency. I'm going to stop sharing my slides just to show you what this looks like in real life. And to be honest, it's not that radically different from what I just showed you. So you go to guidestar.org. This is the website, the main page. If you've never signed in before, there's a little option to create an account and sign in up there on the top right. And then you can click into updating your nonprofit profile and begin to work to do that, to get information communicated about who you are. It takes you through, it walks you through the process, and so that you become a profile manager, a person that can handle this. By the way, if you go to guidestar.org and you're running into problems and you're not able to figure out what you're supposed to do, down there in the bottom right is a little chat with Candid button that says you can ask questions as you go on. We'll walk you through what you need to know. Also, there's always support links, information, help screens, other things that will take you through the process. I'm going to show you what it looks like when you do log in. If you log in and then click on Update your nonprofit profile, once you get permission to do that, your nonprofit profile will show up here as one of the choices you can update. I'm going to update one that's called Bright Star for Good. That's a made-up organization. You can see what it tells you to do. It takes you through the different seal levels, bronze, silver, gold, and platinum. And it tells you the kind of information you can update in each one. Just clicking on the update information, for example, for bronze, will show you the spaces that you need to fill in. It'll tell you also whether it's required or not. Bronze seal is pretty basic. It will take you through the mailing address. It will take you through the physical address, if you have an international address, a phone number, a website, and the primary contact. You'll be asked to put that in. Where should people send donations? That's one of the most important things that you want to keep up to date. And then the organization's mission, basic information, and the subject areas that describe who you are. You're really trying to make yourself visible to the people that are using GuideStar to research nonprofits. So this is the basic information that you want to share. This whole screen that I just showed you takes about 5 minutes to update, and you can continue. You can save if you want to have somebody else look it over, or you can publish it. That's something that's very, very important. Once you complete any of the seal levels, if you go through bronze, you go to silver and you start updating that. Once you get through it, you need to publish it in order to earn benefits. Now, this particular made-up little nonprofit doesn't have a benefits section, so I'm going to show you the benefits section of another organization you may know. That's Candid. That's us. Candid has updated and earned a platinum seal of transparency. So all of these different sections are completed with the details that describe the nonprofit. The benefits section, once you publish any updates, will list all the different benefits that you get, including Apple Pay, including the ability to share your seal on your website. And I'll tell you a little bit more about one particular benefit for small nonprofits. That's called Go for the Gold, and it's earned access to Foundation Directory. But this is GuideStar. Again, you can get assistance whenever you need it. You can go into the support section and find additional information about all the different levels of seals, trainings that will help you take you through this. Let's go back to the slides and I'll finish up talking about this. So I'm going to share my slides one last time here. And now I'm back here where we saw the update of the different levels. If you update your profile, you have to publish in order to make it happen. It takes about 15 minutes for that information to show up. And then you can take advantage of the benefits. I mentioned Go for the Gold. Essentially, if you're a small nonprofit under $1 million in revenue, you can get Foundation Directory Essential for free by getting a gold seal of transparency on guidestar.org. So you update your Candid profile, you earn a gold seal of transparency. In the benefits section, you'll have a link directly to a code that will enable you to get Foundation Directory Essential for free. And for those of you who don't know what Foundation Directory Essential is, that is our basic version of our Foundation Directory, our listing of grant makers throughout the United States and the world. You can use that to search to find grant opportunities, and you get a 1-year subscription to it. That's a over $700 value for free if you update and you're a small nonprofit. You also get all these other benefits, a full profile link that you can put in your mailings, on your LinkedIn page, on your website to make sure that people know all the things about you. And then, of course, Apple Pay for donations is something that you qualify for just by getting a bronze seal. Remember, as Tracy said, you want people to find you. You want people to learn as much about you as they can when they see you on GuideStar. All those funders, those donor-advised fund managers that are researching you, the more detail you share, the more seals that you earn, the more visible you are to those potential funders. That's one of my key tips for giving season, which I'm going to end up with, is to make sure you keep your website, your donation pages, and your Candid nonprofit profile up to date. If you do nothing else with GuideStar and your Candid profile, go in there, look yourself up, and make sure your contact information is accurate. You don't want people to want to give money to you and to send it to the wrong place or link to the wrong webpage. Keep that information up to date. Giving season is just around the corner. staff time is in next week. You want to make sure that people who are interested in finding you and interested in giving to you know the right things about you. The other things you should think about as we move into giving season, and this is kind of outside of what we're talking about so far with the candid profiles, is just simply to make connections. If you've had past supporters and you haven't updated them about what's going on, reach out to them, thank them for what they've been doing. Make a check-in with them, even before you start to do your solicitations for the end of the year. You don't want to lose people. If there are any lapsed donors, have you made a list of them? Have you reached out to them? Have you shared your impact recently? One of the great things about going on to the Candid profile and updating that information is you can share images and you can share videos and you can share what impact you've made by sharing your evaluation results. This means you can tell your story clearer to potential donors. And if you haven't updated them recently, make sure you share that. I like the idea of sharing it and also encouraging other people, friends, supporters, volunteers to share your impact also on places like LinkedIn, on their Facebook page. Make sure that you get the word out about yourselves. And remember always to keep asking, as that survey we showed you earlier said, it's about 10% of all the end of the year giving happens in the last 3 days of the year. So you may feel like, wow, this is a really short giving season. It starts in December this year. We only have that month and then it kind of dwindles. Keep asking, keep reaching out. People give throughout the month. They give to the absolute last minute. You don't want to forget to make connections. If you want to learn more about any of these different things, we have free courses that will teach you. If you want to go through the process of telling your story using your free Candid profile, there's a free self-paced course. There's also a free live webinar coming up on October 15th that is just taking you through the process of updating your Candid profile. And we also have a help guide, a really wonderful help guide called Candid Profile Best Practices that will help you get used to telling your story in the most accurate way possible. All of these will help you with getting yourself together, getting the word out about you so that any donor advised fund managers will find you, any fundraisers. You'll have links to your updated profile so you can share that in giving season, and you'll have a much more successful time. I'm going to just turn to the next slide, which is our feedback slide, and we really do want your feedback. And I'm going to stop sharing in just a little bit, but I want to welcome Chris Bunting on to ask some of the questions that have been coming in. So take it away, Chris.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Dave. You can hear me? Okay, great. And yes, please fill out this survey. We have an awesome instructional design intern who's going to be doing lots of analysis to help us act on your feedback, and it has been useful in the past. But to get to our first question, are there any benefits to the Candid profile or seals of transparency that help smaller nonprofits?
Oh, I think 1,000%. I think if anything, candid profiles help level the playing field a little bit for smaller nonprofits. The big household name organizations, everyone knows they exist. But if you're a very small organization and you really have trouble reaching new audiences and getting the word out, I mean, you're not going to live on your candid profile alone for this, but it's going to help tremendously, I think. There are, what, 1.8 million different nonprofits out there just in the US alone. I think it's almost at 1.9 million now. And not nearly enough of them have seals of transparency on Candid quite yet. But funders and donors, their eyes are drawn to those who do have them. And if you have a seal of transparency next to the name of your organization, immediately you stand out from the crowd, and it's going to help you out a lot and bring you in front of the kinds of people who you might not have been able to meet otherwise.
And any size nonprofit can earn a platinum seal of transparency and be compared by researchers, by people deciding who to give to, with all the other different nonprofits out there. You basically show up so much clearer if you do that updating.
And just like one thing, when I was getting to know Candid Seals of Transparency and all the ways people give, I don't know if Dave or Tracy, you can speak, it's specifically on donor advised funds. Most of those interfaces actually show the seal. Is that right?
That is right.
Okay, great. Our next question comes from, I think it represents a lot of nonprofits who file e-postcards for their 990 instead of the full 990. So, is there any effect on your Candid profile if you simply file that simpler postcard rather than like a full 990 form if you're a smaller nonprofit?
Well, certainly there's an impact in the initial profile that's there. When we get information from the IRS, we get the bare bones. And when you're filing and sharing bare bones information with the IRS, you're going to have even less information about who you are and what you do on there. So my recommendation is definitely to go in there and make sure you update your Candid profile and share the information that maybe you didn't put on the 990, that on the postcard or any of that information, but you can choose to put it on there and so that people can really understand who you are. You can also put it in context when you're describing things like your finances, or if you had a bad year in 2020 because of COVID, you can put those kind of contextual items in there that IRS records and 990s just never cover.
Yeah, I think basically if you file the postcard, when funders look you up and you haven't done anything with your profile, they're barely going to find any information at all, and they can't really make an informed decision that way. So I think if anything, taking the time to claim your profile and get a seal of transparency is only going to help you from there. You go from practically no information to exactly as much information as you need to tell your story in full.
That's really helpful. Yeah, I was even trying to think off the top of my head, like if you just file the postcard versus if you file the fuller 990 form. If you file the fuller 990 form, there's probably a lot more information up front. Like I'm thinking leader name or like financials, definitely. Some of that if you, but if you file the postcard, all the more reason to claim your profile and really tell your own story. Super, super interesting. So another question that came in is, do you need to update your information every year? And how often should you update?
Well, I'll just say that the nice thing is that Candid and GuideStar keep you updated about when you should be doing the update. You really should look at it at least once a year to update your information, to earn a seal of transparency. We announce usually in the early part of every year when we have new seals available. And it's a very good idea to at least review the information that's available so that you can keep it up to date. You have the latest financials because that's what funders want. You have the latest results shared. That's very, very important. And you should review it throughout the year if there are changes, particularly staff changes. Maybe you moved, maybe you did something else. Anytime you make a major change of the organization, you want to do some updating.
Of course, my mouse decides not to work on a webinar with over 500 people. Okay, so yeah, I hadn't even thought about like if you move. I know there's one of the fields in your profile. It's like, where should we send donations? If that address changes, that's probably a super important thing to change. Yeah, and I think the other nice thing about if you're updating every year, like once you get a seal, often, for example, to if you already have bronze and you're renewing to bronze this year, it can be as simple as confirming the fields, saving, and then you can get to this year's seal. So the hope is that if you already have a seal, it's a lot faster. So
It's
that's
much easier to just update.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Another question, and I know you talked about it a little bit during the presentation, but there's so much information. Can you explain Go for Gold? Like, how do you qualify? If you do qualify and you participate, like, what do you get out of it?
Yes,
It's not the
so
Olympics, right?
it's not the Olympics. It's easier than that. So if you are an organization with an annual budget of less than $1 million a year, which probably describes a fair number of you on this webinar right now. A lot of nonprofits have budgets under $1 million each year. You are eligible for the Go for Gold campaign. This means if you earn either a gold seal of transparency or a platinum seal of transparency, you can benefit from this, meaning you will get a free 1-year subscription to the Foundation Directory Essential. When you finish updating your profile and you get your seal of transparency and you published, you go further to the benefits section. When you're in the benefits section, they will give you a code that you can use to access your free 1-year Foundation Directory subscription.
And just as a pointer for a couple of situations, sometimes that doesn't automatically show up in the benefits. You can always reach out to our Candid support team who are standing by. They can help you. They can walk you through the process of making sure you get it if you are a small nonprofit and you've gotten the gold seal. Also, larger nonprofits, you know that you can get access to Foundation Directory other places. We're sorry that we can't do the Go for the Gold program for you, but know that you can subscribe to Foundation Directory or get free access at any one of our over 1,600 partners throughout the United States and Mexico.
We're muted, Chris.
Dang it. I will learn one day. What is this Foundation Directory thing? Why should I use it?
Yeah, so the same way that we were talking about funders researching you want to research funders also, right? So that's what Foundation Directory is for. Foundation Directory is an enormous database of well over 200,000 different funders. You've got your independent foundations, you've got your corporate foundations, your corporate giving programs, your community foundations and other grant-making public charities. You got donor-advised fund vehicles, federal funders, you name it, along with listings of past grants that all of these funders have been giving out to other nonprofits so that you can do incredibly detailed, thorough research and find out who do you want to approach for a grant. So the research it's mutual. It is a two-way process. Funders research you, you research funders. One way or another, you find your way to one another.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. Just trying to think of maybe folks who don't, maybe hadn't been familiar. And just to clarify on the Go for Gold benefit, so that's if my nonprofit has less than $1 million in revenue per year, right? And we earn a gold seal. And if that remains the case and we earn a gold seal year after year, I can renew that benefit, correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. Awesome. Another question that came in, so you can see I'm looking at questions. Can you explain DAFs and how they can help me? DAF stands for DAF. Dave, I think you've done some fun videos on DAFs. What does DAF stand for?
DAF stands for Donor Advised Funds. Essentially, someone who doesn't want to start their own foundation, doesn't want to just give individually, but wants to invest their money, takes their money to a company like Fidelity or Vanguard or Schwab or another donor advised fund manager, an investment company. That company invests their money and gives them the opportunity to recommend who they can give some of their money to in donations. And that's a donor advised fund. Community foundations often also work this way, and they have donor advised funds as well. And those donor advised fund managers often use GuideStar. They use that as a way to help the donors research the best nonprofits to give to. Sometimes they do the research themselves on who is available. But that is the fastest growing way of giving in the United States. And if you'll use Foundation Directory, and you'll see how many of the donor advised fund foundations are among the biggest givers in different areas. You can't write to them directly. The only way you can really get on their radar, other than making connections to the individuals who make the investments, is to update your profile on GuideStar. It really makes your organization stand out.
Uh, Another quick question. Is it, when I refer to a seal of transparency, is it correct to say GuideStar seal of transparency or Candid seal of transparency?
I
Someday
never know how to answer this one.
someday this will not be an issue.
Opinions, and I probably shouldn't.
I would say that if you go to guidestar.org, you will earn you have a candid profile and you earn a seal of transparency. Everything,
Yes.
GuideStar was one of the organizations that became part of Candid 5 years ago. So
Okay.
there's still a transition in the names. However,
Mhm.
this is going to all be Candid someday. So
Mhm.
get used to that name.
Yes. So when in doubt, it's Candid seal of transparency.
Right.
And currently you claim that on GuideStar.org, but it's a Candid seal of transparency.
Right.
So you've heard it here. You can quote me. Okay, great. Another question that came in about the profile information. So, does the profile information involve data that an organization is worried about protecting? If so, how does Candid protect it? Any initial thoughts on this? I had a initial thought, but I will defer to you two.
Feel, feel free to share your initial thoughts, Chris. That's fine.
So I was thinking any information you share on your profile, you want to be publicly available, right?
Yeah.
And as far as like protecting who can edit your profile, that's why we have profile editors behind a login.
Yeah, we definitely are not interested in having anyone who doesn't belong on managing your data against your will or not. That's why we'd go through the process of making sure that the person who is updating your candid profile is entitled to share that information, is a part of your organization. The other thing is much of what you are going to be sharing is public information, that is published in your 990, is information that you would have to share to the federal government, which makes it a public resource as well. We do not advocate you sharing anything that is kept private. Certainly, you're not sharing social security numbers or any of that kind of information. But it's important to be able to tell your story and to put things in context. And I think that's what GuideStar offers you. Tracy,
A
did you
lot of
want
the
to that?
information that might make you a little nervous to share to begin with, it's already in your tax returns. Like the financials, for instance, you might be like, I can't share all my financial information. I mean, a lot of that is already public information regardless. And from there, the information that you're voluntarily sharing, it's primarily the kind of stuff that you want the world to know about. You want them to know how your programs work. You want them to know impact of those programs. That's the stuff that you really want to dedicate a lot of time to sharing your profile.
Awesome. Yeah, I think, the programs information, the impact information, it's just such a way to actually tell the full story of what you do, right? That goes beyond those public, the tax forms. And so one final question, how long does it take to earn my first seal?
Oh, very little time at all. About 5 minutes to earn your bronze seal.
Yeah, it should be 5 to 10 minutes, right? You're just filling in, I think, pretty simple answers to questions
I
like, is this,
showed you all the blanks that you need to fill
yes,
in.
Dave showed us.
And really,
Yes.
if you saw anything there that's complicated or confusing, you can get assistance very easily from our staff. So I wouldn't worry about it. 5 to 10 minutes. If you may have it all in your head, you can just type it out. No problem.
I think even the silver seal of transparency won't take much longer than that either. If you already have pre-existing language on some of your top programs, copy and paste. And before you know it, you have a silver seal of transparency.
Awesome. Well, that brings us to our last question. That was our last question. Thank you all for joining us today. Dave, Tracy, any final recommendations for next steps
Just
or words of wisdom?
pay attention to Giving Tuesday, pay attention to the giving season. It's coming faster than you think.
Yeah, so much of this process is just going to be really difficult work of reaching out to donors, your existing donors, new potential donors. At least this one step is probably one of the simplest and most straightforward things that you can do as part of this overall season. So there's really no reason not to.
It's nice to do the easy things that are effective. So do that.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Yeah. So I think we've seen in the room here via emojis, lots of love going out to our amazing speakers and, a sense of community that we all may be a little nervous about giving season, but we also have more tools now than we did at the beginning today. And we have concrete way that we can increase our visibility online and to potential donors. So thank you all for joining us today. And thank you, Dave and Tracy, for your awesome presentation. And thank you to the folks who were behind Q&A. I saw they answered over 100 questions in the span of this webinar. So absolutely amazing and great to see the kind of visibility in the range. So thank you all also for your questions and for your feedback. Speaking of, we will read every survey response and be acting on what you tell us. So thank you in advance for your survey feedback and have a fabulous day.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Good luck out there.